back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only Dr. Jen Armstrong. What is going on? You are in your practice. How are things going today in the OC?
I am. I'm in between patients, believe it or not. So sorry. Might be just got to fit it in while you can, you know.
Listen, people need to be injected. Like, you know, there's things to do.
It's emergency Botox. You know how that goes.
Oh, I do know how that goes. And we're going to talk about that later on. I mean, like, so how are you? Look, you've had a whirlwind week, you know, like week and a half, like, you know, you're not coming back to the OC. Like, how are you? That's like my first question.
It's been kind of a whirlwind for sure. I mean, as everyone knows, there's like lots of changes in my life right now. So family wise, work wise, now production wise, so everything's kind of up in the air changing. I would like to go escape for a month to like Hawaii and disappear, but you know, I'm not allowed.
Are you in the like, okay, if I just have like a boring life where nothing changes for the next like 6 months, like bring it on?
I've never had a boring life where nothing changes for 6 months. So I'm not going to count on that now, but that sounds kind of lovely, actually.
What is your astrological sign? I mean, I'm a Gemini, so we have a lot going on at all times.
You do have a lot going on. I get along well with Geminis. I'm Capricorn. I thought it was pretty interesting on the show that Emily, Heather, and I were all Capricorn and we all had twins.
Strange. That is strange. When you kind of find out you're not going back to the OC, like what are the emotions associated with that? Like shock, anger, like what did you go through when that happens?
Probably the first feeling was relief, because it's just like, I mean, I think they're starting to film like now. I you know, that surprisingly, the COVID people actually reached out to me to test today to start filming. So I think that this may have been more of a last minute decision. But I don't, you know, I couldn't even imagine starting to film right now. Like I just moved into a new house. And remodeled it. And there's just all sorts of, like, it's just kind of chaotic right now.
So relief is really the feeling.
Relief was my first feeling. Yeah. And then of course you're sad, right? Because it's like exciting. You do new things and you're like, oh, nobody wants to be dumped, right? You want to do the dumping. So you had to kind of go through all that, but everyone was extremely nice. We you know, talked about the future a lot, talked about other aspects, and I have a great relationship with the network, great relationship with Evolution. And it's interesting, a lot of the producers texted me and was like, we're so sad. And so we're all gonna have a beach day one day, so that'll be fun.
And like, to your point, like if the COVID, it's almost like, you look, there's so many layers sometimes with production. Like if the COVID people are calling you to test today, right? It's probably like it was a last minute decision maybe, and it hasn't even trickled down.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had a meeting that like in a few hours with the new producer. And then, you know, I had a phone call with Evolution and then we decided to not come back as a full-time housewife. And so it happened very kind of suddenly, you know.
Are you like, and you're fine? Like the relief is there's no sadness or regret or like.
I probably would have had that conversation. I was going to have that conversation with the producer and talk about coming back as a friend role, because I don't know if I could keep up that much production again for another year. It's, you know, I work full time and have 3 kids. And so I don't have the backup rich husband. So filming 5 days a week and working 5 days a week, it was a lot. Like it was just a lot last year. So I was kind of hoping that they would bring me back as a friend. I was going to ask them if we could do that. And then they made that call first. So I was like, okay, well, that's kind of what I wanted anyway. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, look, Housewives is wonderful. It's wonderful. I had a great time. It was definitely a unique experience, but I'm not like the drunk mean girl. So I definitely had like a different play on it. You know, I was just myself and my world kind of crumbled a little bit during filming. So it was an interesting world to navigate doing that on camera. But yeah, I don't know.
Do you think, because like I would agree, like I don't think of you as the drunk mean girl either. Do you think like, you know, like you're there one season, and I talk to a lot of people that are there 1 or 2 seasons, and they're just like, this was me. I just came and brought myself. Do you think like, you know, people that are there for a long time, 5+ years, like, do you think they just kind of know what they're doing, become like caricatures of themselves and like just know how to do this?
I think that when you can't, well, first year, yeah, I was completely myself because I don't know how else to be. I'm not an actress, and I've said that so many times. But you definitely get your legs, you know. Like going into a second season, I would know what to expect. You kind of know how the drill is going to go. You realize that there's tons of editing, and you can just be more. Feel like you can be more relaxed and be more involved, just because it's not a new venture anymore, right?
Totally.
And probably enjoy it more too, because you know what to expect. But I do feel like, yeah, people who've been on it for multiple seasons turn up the heat, probably because they want to be renewed. You know, I mean, it's like a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer, especially like when the salaries get up there. I mean, you don't want to lose that.
Right. And then a lot of people also don't have anything to fall back on, right? So you're like, well, they have to. And I was blessed. I'm blessed enough that I didn't have to, you know, I could just be myself, and that was that. And it was great. I actually had a lot of positive feedback from working mothers, single mothers, working mothers who have wanted to work, but didn't have, you know, the confidence to. So I had a lot of really positive feedback. That made me.
What was like a high for you of this whole experience? Like, is there anything that happened that was just like a high that you loved from the show?
I love professionals. That was so much fun. I just like talking myself in front of the camera, without all the other, you know,
stuff going on.
So you could just be yourself.
What were some of the lows? Like, what was a low for you of this whole experience?
A low was definitely the editing. So I felt like I was heavily edited, almost to make me like a mute, which bothered me, because I'm like, wow, that was a ton of work to do those scenes, and then it, you know, it's one flash of like my face, you know. So I mean, with that whole Noella thing, we had a whole lunch. I confronted her. I had like a timer and a list, and like I didn't not respond to all those allegations or her ridiculous behavior, and then it was just all edited out. So that was so frustrating for me, you know, because it wasn't the actual storyline. It just made me look like I stood there and I was like, huh? Which wasn't actually what happened. So that was frustrating.
And you came with like a whole list of things to confront her and much more.
That was wonderful. I'm kind of shocked that they didn't put that in